Hello, welcome to Easy Eats with Chef Yves. My name is Chef Yves Deshane and I'm here at the Greener Villages Learning Kitchen. And today I'm going to show you guys how to make one of my favorite springtime dishes. Spring is in the air and we're going to show you guys how to make quiche. But today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to show you guys how to make a traditional quiche, which is just a regular pie dough with eggs, a little bit of spinach, a little bit of cheese, so a quiche Florentine. But I'm also going to show you guys how to make a gluten-free vegan version, because I know that in my home we've got family members who are leaning towards the vegan or vegetarian diet, and I don't want to exclude them, and I want to have something that's just as tasty or something that will kind of be comparable to the real thing. So today we'll show you how to make both of them. We're going to start off with the traditional one. First things first is a pie crust. We'll start off with a 1 1/3 cup of flour, and this will make a 9-inch pie shell. To that we're going to add half a cup of butter, or lard if you're into lard or shortening, but I've got butter here today. And then I'm just going to, and it needs to be cold, and I'm just going to grate it in. So this is a great way to incorporate your butter, because you know, making pie crust, you just kind of want to have a mealy type pie crust. So you can either cut this into little cubes or do what I do, is I keep it semi-frozen and then I just grate it in like this. It just makes it easier to work with in the dough. There we go. And again, you don't have to do this. You can just cut it up into little pieces, but working cold. And I guess that's the tip about making pie crusts, is making sure that all your ingredients other than the flour are as cold as you can get them. So before we started this today, I made sure everything was in the fridge and ready to go when we were ready to shoot. And now to this, I'm just going to move this aside. If you're not using salted butter, just add a little bit of salt to your dish. It's about a teaspoon. So we're just going to mix that up together. And then now I'm just going to work the flour and the butter together and just kind of work it with your hands like this. And you're just going to want to kind of get like a mealy texture, not kind of sandy, but just mealy. So your chunks of butter will be kind of pea size. And then just working with your fingers like this. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of cold water. Again, I'm using cold water, and I like to use bottled water for this because it is nice and cold, and then I have something to drink afterwards as well. There we go. So 1, 2. I'm going to risk the 3 because I know what it feels like in here, and then that's it. Is when the recipe says 2 to 3, it's always start off with 2 and then kind of feel your environment. It's kind of warm today in the kitchen, so I'm going to add another bit of water just to absorb a little bit of that moisture in the air. Here we go. And then we're just going to knead it until it comes together. So just kind of work it. You don't want to overwork it because you don't want all that butter to melt, and that's the striations of that butter is what's going to make your pie crust nice and flaky, and it'll flake up. And then you're going to worry about having it all of it incorporated. It won't all incorporate, the flour that is. You just work it to the best you can. There we go. There's always a little bit of flake, and that's okay. I mean, I've never used all of it. Some people call it, my grandmother used to call it the angel's share. It's always a little bit extra. If you're lucky enough to use it all, it works. But if not, that's okay. And then you got a dough ball that looks just like this. And what we're going to do now is I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to put it in the refrigerator, and we're going to let it rest for about 30 minutes. So what you're doing is we've warmed up all the butter in here while we've incorporated everything. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want that butter to solidify again. So when we roll it out, again, like I said, we're going to get those nice striations of butter. So when it cooks, it's going to steam and it's going to puff and flake that dough, and you're going to get a nice flaky crust. And that's kind of what we're looking for. So I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to put it right in the bowl right here, and then we're going to cheat a little bit. I've got a dough that I made earlier, and we're going to take that out. Here we go. So we've got our dough. It's rested for about a half hour or an hour in the fridge is all you want. You just want it to get nice and hard, and it comes together. So it'll feel kind of like a hard Play-Doh. Then you're just going to grab a little flour, put it on your countertop. It's okay to be liberal, as much as you need. I grabbed my bench scraper because I'm not super confident and I'm hoping that I have enough flour, but if not, this will help me kind of get the dough off the counter so I can put it into the pie plate. Then I'm going to as well grab a little bit of flour and dust my rolling pin. I don't want anything to stick at all. And it might stick because of the butter striations in here, so we're going to want to get everything ready just like that. And now, the moment of truth, I'm just going to press out and into a disc. And then the trick is just to roll it out as much of a circle as you can, and then just slowly. And it's okay if it starts to crack. It's not like a bread dough where everything is, we haven't developed the gluten, so things are going to crack a little bit, so just kind of work around it and slowly roll. And then put the pressure on the outside so it evens everything out. There we go. A little more flour. Grab my bench scraper to make sure that nothing is sticking. And it's okay to see it flake because you know that this is going to be a nice flaky crust. If it's kind of falling apart, you don't want it to fall apart, but there we go. Then I'm just going to check really quick to see that it fits my pie plate, and it does. And then what I do is, just for extra insurance, I just grab a little bit of pan spray, and then I spray the pie shell. That way it won't stick and it'll come out clean, and then there's less scrubbing as well when you're cleaning up. An easy trick is just rolling it onto your pin like this. Will lift a lot of it up, and then you just slide your pie plate like this. You slowly lift it, and then you can unroll it just like that. There we go. So I just take these leavings just like this, and I just patch. It's a patchwork pie, I guess, too. There we go. And again, you don't have to be a pie maker, and that's it. It's easy eats, and everyone's going to like it because it's made with love. And patching it up, no one's going to see that underneath the egg. So once you have it where you like it and everything is there, we just grab the side of your dough cutter if you have a dough cutter. If not, the back of a butter knife or a paring knife works just as well, and then just kind of clean the edges up just like that. Stay tuned for more Easy Eats with Chef Yves. Welcome back to Easy Eats with Chef Yves. We're back making a Quiche Florentine, the traditional version, and then later on in the episode we're going to show you guys how to make a gluten-free vegan version for members of your family or maybe yourself who are looking to change your diet up. So back to the quiche here at hand, we're going to show you how to make the filling. So quiche is a great way to use up leftovers in the fridge. Again, Easy Eats is all about taking what you've made the night before and kind of transforming it into something different, something exciting for the next day, so you're not always eating the same thing. So quiche is a great way to do that. I'm going to start with 6 eggs, 6 medium eggs. If you have large eggs, I would use about 4 or 5, but for this one I am using 6 eggs, white or brown. If you're lucky enough to have chickens at home, it's a great way to use up your eggs. Now here's a great thing here. I just popped a shell in here, and how do we get a shell out of our mixture? It's really simple. You use the shell, and then you just come and grab it, and it will, there you go, take it out so you don't have to get your fingers dirty. They will get dirty a little bit, but you won't be fishing and digging in there to get your eggs out. So there we go. We've got 6 medium eggs, and to that I'm just going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then we're going to add 3/4 cup of milk. If you have sour cream, you can add sour cream. If you've got cream, if you're lucky, you can add cream. All we're doing is we're adding milk to kind of fluff up the eggs. So when you're making scrambled eggs or anything like that, you know that a little bit of water or milk will help steam up and kind of fluff the egg, and that's kind of what we're looking for. You could use water if you didn't have milk, but again, we're kind of making it a little bit more decadent, and you have milk kicking around, so you can use that. If you have a dairy allergy, you can definitely use a milk alternative. And I'm going to show you guys with that vegan dish that we are using a milk alternative for that. So it's as simple as that, guys. We've got our custard base for our quiche, and now it's just a matter of filling it. So today we're going to make a really simple quiche Florentine, which is quiche Florentine means a spinach quiche. So I'm just going to use some baby spinach that we have here, that we got an abundance of here at the Greener Village. So when we get a glut of something, I like to show everybody what they can do with it. And again, we'll be growing stuff here at the Greener Village this summer. So we're growing spinach as well. So and spinach is great. It's full of iron. It's super healthy, full of fiber. So it's something good to get into you. And it's easy to use and simple. You just wash it up, and then you could cut it if you want. But again, I'm making a rustic style quiche, as you can see the style of dough that I've put into this pan today. So I'm just going to break that up as much or as little as you want. Some people will wilt it down, so they'll saute it, melt it in a little bit of garlic butter, add some onions to it. I kind of like the kind of burnt crispiness of the leaves as they're off when they bake outside of the custard, and then it just kind of makes a nicer dish, I find, if you don't cook it. But that's my personal opinion. If you wanted to wilt down your spinach, you can do that as well. You can add, like I said, anything into there. Caramelized onions, if you had roast chicken from leftover, if you've got some ham leftover from Easter, if you're doing an Easter dish, that's great. Anything you want to put into here, you can. And they freeze fairly well. They'll only last probably about a month in the freezer if you do freeze them, but I mean, once you've made your quiche, it's hard to not finish it all in one sitting. All right, so we've got our spinach in there. I've got a little bit of Swiss cheese that I've shredded up. You can use cheddar if you wanted to. You can make a cheddar broccoli quiche, I guess is one of the classic ones, a quiche Florentine. There's quiche Lorraine. Quiche Lorraine is just ham and Swiss cheese. And it's as much or as little cheese as you want. Today I'm using about a cup of cheese in here. There we go. Now, you're going to notice that I put it in the base just like this, and then I'm going to pour my custard over top. What you can do as well is you can put it all into the custard and mix it up and pour it in. It makes no real difference. I just like doing that and then kind of moving things around so it leaves kind of air pockets. So I'll have chunks of my quiche that'll have just ooey gooey cheese, some chunks that'll just have spinach. And now all we're going to do is pour that in. And like I said, with the fork, I'm just going to move everything around a little bit just to make sure that there's no real empty spots. And there we go. I've got a quiche that's ready to go into the oven. You're going to set your oven at 375, and then you're going to slide it in there for probably about an hour or so until the custard or the egg is nice and set like an omelet. And that's pretty much it. So I'm just going to set this over here. We'll be right back with Easy Eats with Chef Yves after this. Welcome back to Easy Eats with Chef Yves. Now we're going to tackle the vegan, gluten-free version of a quiche. So the fillings will pretty much stay the same. We're just not going to put any cheese, being vegan, but if it's just a vegetarian one that you're looking for, then you can absolutely add the cheese if you'd like. So again, like we did with the last one, we'll start with the crust. So today I'm doing an almond flour crust. So we're going to start off with 2.5 cups of almond flour, and then to that we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. Pretty simple, just pretty much like the last one, just a little bit less flour. We're just going to mix that together. We're going to take our vegan margarine this time, not butter. You can use coconut oil if you have it, but I have vegan margarine is what I happen to have in my pantry. And again, semi-frozen, and I'm just going to grate it into the flour as well. And if it gets a little iffy on the back end here, it's okay. We'll work it into the flour, and it won't be a big deal. And this dough is a lot more forgiving than the other pie dough. It actually works a little bit different, and you'll see. So to this, I'll just move this out of the way here. We're going to do like we did with the last dough. We're just going to work everything and incorporate everything in there and get it to a nice mealy texture. Again, just kind of rubbing your hands and rubbing it through your fingers. Relieves a lot of tension and stuff, guys. Like just work it like that. And there we go. We're looking for a mealy, sandy texture because almond flour is a little sandy to begin with. It's not as soft and as smooth as all-purpose flour. So we're just kind of looking for a nice rough texture. When it's kind of coming together just like this, it looks like you don't need any water, but you do. You're going to need a couple of tablespoons of water as well. And again, I'm going to use a nice cold water from the fridge. A couple tablespoons is all you need. And there you go. It'll come together. But it'll come together differently than the other dough. It'll be more of a kind of a wet, sandy dough. There we go. Oh, I need maybe just a little more water. Like I said, 2 to 3 tablespoons. I put 2. And then 3. There we go. And there we go. We got it's going to be like a saggy, sticky kind of dough. So not at all like your traditional pie dough. And again, the way we're going to put it into the pan as well is a little bit different. So I'm going to take a second here, wash my hands off, and then we're going to put it into the pie plate. Just rinse my hands off. All right. So now we're just going to put the pie shell into the pie plate. Again, I'm going to spray just because I don't want anything to stick, and it makes it for easier cleanup. It's always handy to have some pan spray around. And then for this dough, we're just going to grab it and then push it into possession. So it's a little bit different, a little bit more in my wheelhouse when it comes to making pies, because I can make these look a little bit prettier. And it's basically just working the dough until you lift it off the edges, just like this, and then slowly pat it like that. Take your time. Just make sure you're not pushing too hard and making holes in your crust. Just kind of slowly. Here we go. So there we go. We have our pie crust. It's formed just like this. What we're going to do is, with the crust, the gluten-free crust, we're going to need to par bake it before we add our vegan or tofu filling, because they cook at different temperatures, or different times, sorry. So what will happen is that you'll have a nice cooked inside and a raw crust. So what we're going to do is what's called blind baking our crust for about 10 minutes at about 375. And then to do that, we're just going to what they call docking. And docking is basically just popping holes, because this will fluff up, and you don't want it to fluff up too much, and then we won't have a concave area to put our filling into. So we'll just do that, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to make it pretty. So I'm just going to, with a fork, kind of put a little bit of garnish to this. And again, very rustic when I make pies, very utilitarian. There we go. And there we are. We have our pie crust. What we're going to do is we're going to blind bake this, like I said, for 10 minutes at 375. And then we'll take it out. And when you take it out, you'll have something that looks just like this. And there we go. So we've got a blind baked, and then it's not fully cooked. It's probably about halfway cooked, but it will finish cooking once at the same time as the filling. So there we go. So we've got our crust, gluten-free, vegan, and then we'll move on to our filling. So for the filling, it's fairly simple. Again, what we're going to do is we're just going to grab our spinach and just tear it up. Put this in the bottom. Again, you can use any kind of peppers, mushrooms, whatever you'd like to put in the bottom of this. I'm using spinach because it's nice, it's simple, and everyone kind of likes spinach, and it's great. We've been growing some microgreens, and you can definitely use microgreens in this as well. It'll make a nice pop of flavor. Okay, so back to the filling. So the filling is really simple. All we're going to do is we're going to grab our food processor right here, and to that I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of non-dairy milk. So today I'm using almond milk. You can use cashew milk, you can use oat milk, you can use soy milk, but we're using almond milk right here. And to that as well, I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of almond flour, and that's just going to help bind everything and give it a little bit of a structure, kind of like a roux in a sauce, I guess. For a little bit of color and a little bit of flavor, I'm going to add some turmeric, and that's really going to pop out. It's going to kind of make it yellow, so it'll mimic the egg a little bit. I'm going to add, of course, some pepper, about a teaspoon and a half, some salt, same amount to flavor, and then I'm going to grab some semi-soft or some semi-firm tofu, about 1.5 pounds, or about 1 pound, 16 ounces, and then we're just going to, and I'm not going to worry about draining it, just going to pop it into my mixer, just like that, and then we're going to turn it on and mix it until it's nice and smooth. Shouldn't take all that long, but once it's nice and smooth, just like this, you're going to have the consistency looks like this. Kind of looks like hummus. It's nice and it's loose. We're just going to tap off the excess. And just like the egg mixture, we're just going to pour it into our pie shell. Just like that. And again, you can wilt the spinach if you want. If you wanted to put the spinach right into the food processor and blitz it up with the tofu mixture, you're more than welcome to do that. You'll get a nice kind of pastel-y green pie, but I'm looking for it to kind of, again, mimic the real thing, I guess. There we go. Just move everything around, make sure everything is underneath some leaves. Smooth it out. And there you have it, folks. We've got a lovely vegan quiche, gluten-free to boot. We're going to put this in the oven right here along with our quiche. And then we're going to put those in the oven at 375 for about an hour. And then when the hour's up, you're going to end up with, this is my favorite part, the magic of television. I've been slaving for hours before he's even turned the camera on to offer you guys our two versions of quiche right here. I'll put these ones in now. There we go. And there you are, folks. We've got our traditional quiche right here. You'll see it's a little springy and it's ready to go, and then it'll bounce back. A lovely omelet. You'll notice that once it cools, all this puff will kind of settle so it won't be as puffy. And then we have our almond flour crusted tofu vegan quiche right here. We'll see you again next time.